Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. We're so glad to have you join us today at the Wealthspire Wire. Today, we're going to be talking about behavioral finance, why we make the decisions we do when it comes to money. So, before we dive into that, wanted to take a minute to introduce myself and my co-host Diana. So, I'll start with myself. My name is Bond, Jamie Bond. It's a waste if I don't introduce myself that way. Great to meet you all. I am an accredited financial counselor and accredited investment fiduciary. I got into finance because I unexpectedly became a single mom at one point in my life and really, had $2 to my name. Through learning the principles of finances and applying them to my life, I was slowly but surely able to bring my family to a much more stable position. So I feel very strongly about sharing what I know and helping other people really feel confident about their finances and the decisions they make. So looking forward to speaking with you all today, and I'll toss it over to Diana.
Thanks so much, Jamie. I do love your intro. I'm Diana Zhao, and I'm thrilled to also be here to talk about behavioral finance. Funny enough, how I got into finances, I started off with psychology and then took a class in finance and really enjoyed it, and then switched my major to finance. And so, been in finance for over a decade, and it is true, like working with clients from all walks of life is very, very something I take and hold very dear to me. And I'm so excited to have this conversation about why we make the decisions we make.
I didn't realize you came into it from a psychology angle first.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
sure
great.
did.
That's a good background to have. Perfect. Well, we can go ahead and start with the slide deck here. Is that pulling up for you, Diana? Can you see that?
It's coming up. Yep.
Perfect. Great. So really, we're going to get into these key objectives. We're going to discuss really what the behavior gap is and how that shapes our money decisions. We're going to talk through what our values are. And from there, we can use those values as a basis, as a lens to look through what the 4 pillars of financial wellness are. From there, we want to make a goal and define it, and then we'll leave off with some tools and resources that you can use for whatever stage you are in your finances. So starting off, we have the behavior gap. So I think the title kind of says it all, really. And it's the idea that we know what we need to do, but we don't always do it. And a lot of times that can be credited to lack of character or laziness, but that really isn't the issue. It's just typically a lack of knowledge and a lack of knowing what to do next. It's like exercise. I wish I exercised more often. I really don't. I know I should. And it's just that building that habit, knowing what exercise is going to work for me, that I'm going to be able to stick with. And so we see this behavior gap in a lot of ways. And it comes from a lot of cognitive biases that can get in the way of what we want our future to be, what we want our current to be, and that disconnect between our actions. So when we think of our decisions and money, we have to remember that money is inherently emotional. A lot of times, with Diana and my credentials, and when we give advice, we're doing a lot of math to give advice, but that is only a tiny piece of it, right? Money has a lot to do with how we feel. So if you're saving lots of money or if you're very successful, you can feel a lot of pride and be like, I do such a good job. If you fall on tough times, we can often attribute that to shame and embarrassment, but it doesn't have a lot to do with that. It really is just the things we have available to us, the opportunities that we have. So we want to be careful to look at what our thoughts are when we're talking to ourselves about money. And there's a couple of these biases I want to review with you in this chart. So the cognitive bias codex kind of gives us 4 categories where we can kind of have a disconnect between what we value and what we're doing. One of them is what we should remember. So the recency effect is something very similar. If you ask someone how good their life is, typically they'll rank it based on how their last 2 weeks were. If they were sick the last 2 weeks, they'll score their entire life as much poorer than if they just got a promotion at work in the last 2 weeks. So this recency effect can sometimes get us when it comes to finances if we get a bonus or a tax return and we think, oh, I'm totally flush with money. I don't even need to worry about my finances or think about it. That recency bias can kind of trip us up there. In the too much information category, that's where we can see a confirmation bias, right? And I think we've got a couple examples on the next slide that we can get into as well. But it's good to just kind of take a look at each of these and get an idea for what things there are that can get in our way. So on this next slide, we can get into a few more of those biases. One of them, that confirmation bias. So a real life example of that is someone saying, I've read that most people don't even have savings, so I don't need to worry about it right now. That's looking at, I don't want to figure out my budget, figure out how to save. That seems too overwhelming. I read most people don't. Whatever, I just won't worry about it. It's not inherently wrong, but recognizing that that's in the way of your decision, we can take that out of the way to get a clearer picture can help. The next one is mental accounting bias. I'm using my year-end bonus to splurge on a new car. It's not like it's part of my regular income anyway. That could be girl math, right?
Yep.
I got cash. I can spend it. Doesn't count. Didn't hit my bank account.
Right.
We got to be careful of that. Endowment effect. This house is special. I know what buyers are offering, but it's worth more to me. And again, it's not inherently wrong. It could be that you want to hold out on that house. But if the only reason you're making that decision is because of what you feel the house is worth and not necessarily your overall financial picture, it could be detrimental to you. Last one we have here is that recency effect I mentioned. We see this a lot in stocks and investing. Stocks have been falling for weeks. I don't think it's a good time to invest right now. It's too short of a time frame to really understand the good or bad time to invest. Typically, it's a well-diversified portfolio over time. So we've got, go ahead, Diana.
Jamie, to add to that, with the various categories we see here, one thing to highlight is that we'll see that with small decisions, whether it's finance, and also big decisions. So, for example, like the endowment effect, we see that maybe going shopping for clothes. If there's a sale today, you have to get it today because you wanted that specific shirt. Doesn't necessarily mean you need it, but we tend to have those and with smaller decisions that could then affect our long-term goals.
Yes, that's a great point. So we do have a poll on this slide. So feel free to type in the chat which one you feel like you've used most recently. One of them for me is the recency effect. I've had a couple of family members go on vacation, and for me, I've been like, ooh, I should go on vacation. Like everybody else is going. They've all done that recently. I should go on vacation, which maybe I'll plan in the future, but I'd say that's probably mine most recently.
I like that. That's a fun one, though, especially if it's vacation, because let's be honest, who doesn't want to be on vacation?
I'll bring you with me.
Please.
Which one of these have been that you've used recently, Diana?
Recently, I would say the mental accounting, where I want to splurge on things that maybe I don't necessarily need because the money has come in or I've been saving really well. And I'm just like, well, I have the funds to get it. Let me get it, instead of taking a break and going, okay, what do I actually really need for where I'm trying to go?
Yes, I love that. That's a really good example. We've had a few in the chat. Someone said the endowment effect is one they've used, or the recency effect. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good that you're able to kind of think through and consider when these might be impacting your decisions. Rachel said mental accounting. Yep. Very good.
I really thank you, Rachel. Thank you for understanding me and also having that too, because it certainly does come up often.
Oh, that's fantastic. Look, you've got a lot of friends. Looks like Lonnie and Dixie said the same thing.
Well, at least that goes to show, right, that it's common, right? We have these, misconceptions or biases that just naturally occur, as we go through every day. And one thing I like to think about, I guess a little bit from a psychology lens, that they are just thoughts, and they're not you. So it's okay to have the thoughts and just let them keep going, hopefully. That we try not to make big decisions based on them.
Yes, exactly. Such a good point. Looks like we've got a bunch of other putting in the chat what they've experienced most recently. Love it. Thank you all so much for sharing. We're going to jump to the next slide. And this one is really highlighting where we see this behavior gap. So on the left, we've got what stresses people the most. And surprise, surprise, finances is one of the most. We have 54% of people that are stressed the most by their finances. 18% are stressed by their job, 12% by their relationship, health concerns, and 5% others. So we see the majority of people are stressed by finances. But that's a little bit different than the application, where on the right, we see that 38% of employees actually have $1,000 saved for retirement, saved for an emergency. So we've got, majority of people are stressed about money, but only 38% of people actually have $1,000 saved for an emergency. So it's this disconnect. And that's really human nature. And so what we really want to get across to you today is that is human nature, and there are ways to work around our human nature for our own benefit. So we're going to talk more about what it takes to, and I'll just skip here, what it takes to close the behavior gap. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Diana.
Yeah, absolutely. Going along with what you said, especially with that previous slide saying, I am worried about money, but what am I actually doing to solve that? This is where we talk about closing that behavioral gap. And one thing I would love to let people know, the just trying harder, just do it type thing. Don't feel like if you've heard that and that didn't work for you, because it really doesn't. I think for many of us, we need to root it in something. And one way, like we do with other things, it's great to look at it from when you're closing the gap. What are my values? Sitting down and thinking about, okay, what are my values? How do those tie into my goals? Because then that would then affect my behavior. And understanding that sort of correlation between the three then helps us then go ahead and make better decisions. The second line that says there, those who lead with their values, they make better decisions, right? They're 4 times more likely to hit success because we are anchoring it in full to us. And I really like to think about it from that standpoint when we go into the next slide, because with this slide, I want you to, once you look at it, what 2 things pop out right for you? Like when it comes to your values. Jamie and I did this exercise. Jamie, would you like to share what you saw?
Yes, I feel like it somewhat adjusts a little bit every day, but mine was definitely play and leisure and relationships. What
I
about for
love
you?
that. I remember when I first saw it, my first thing I saw was fame and happiness. And I said, maybe this does it. With the job being able to do this, that covers that. The more I think about it, creativity pops up for me because I love to be creative. But then relationships is a big one. Talking about vacation, I'd love to have enough money that I can always take vacations to go see my loved ones or take them with me or friends. That would be most fulfilling. So then we can work backwards to make sure, what am I doing to save enough to make sure I can go on vacation with these people I want to see, to then what behaviors can I then institute to make sure I get there. On the next slide, we have sort of like an example to look at what that looks like, because it is important for us to continuously think about, okay, what goal do I have in mind and where am I trying to go? So and I'm just going to do the first one, but then so we can all get the picture there. My value is my health. I want good health. Or in this example is, I want to run the Alzheimer's awareness 5K in 6 months. What am I going to do about it? I have a dog. I have to walk my dog every day anyway. How can I use that time with walking to my dog to start training? Maybe I'll start a little bit of a jog. Maybe that will turn into a run. Start building those, so then that goal, you want to put that behavior tied to that goal to get us where we want to go, and make sure we are properly aligning ourselves. With that, we're going to keep going with this conversation and switch to it more on a financial basis for one goal that means something to all of us, which is looking at our financial independence.
Perfect. Thank you. So, really, we've got four pillars of financial independence. And we really want you to think about those values and kind of go with what sticks out to you first and use that as your lens that you look through the rest of this conversation. I think is a great one, Diana. I also love that one. Nothing wrong with that. I'd love to see, I'm sure you'll get great pictures when you do vacation and kind of up that fame, right?
Right.
Um, so, when we look at the four pillars of financial independence through that lens, it helps kind of ground us in what matters to us. And those four pillars are one, having control over day to day finances. So, knowing that your day and monthly expenditures, what's coming in, what's going out, and really having a picture of what's happening. Two is having the capacity to absorb a financial shock. That's really that, $1,000 emergency fund, water heater goes out, car breaks down, something like that. That's the second pillar of financial independence. Number three is being on track to meet your financial goals. So then you're not just surviving, you're thriving, you're working towards the future. And then the last pillar is having the financial freedom to create options. Now, typically, this has been referred to as retirement, but what we're seeing more and more is that retirement means much different things for each person. And so, what we're saying with this fourth option is really when you hit a point where you're ready to stop working, that you have options to keep working, work part time, start a new business, or really give yourself the opportunity to choose. So, those are the four pillars that we'll be focusing on today.
And Jamie, actually, I just thought of something before you go start talking about pillar one. Earlier, a housekeeping item we wanted to discuss that we forgot to mention. For those of you who have to take a survey and you need a catchphrase to implement at the end of that survey, this webinar session, the phrase is bloom your budget. So there'll be a survey that you need to take, and that phrase should be coming out. I think on the left side of your page, you'll be able to see that there. Please make sure to go ahead and take that. It's bloom your budget. Sorry, feel free to keep going.
All right, thanks, Diana. It's a good reminder. Some of you are getting credit from your employers for attending this session, so make sure you write down that passcode so you can get credit. Perfect. I'm so glad you remembered. That's perfect timing. It brings us right into our next poll, which is which one of these financial pillars do you feel like you have a good grasp on already? Because I bet you there is one that you've already spent a significant amount of time or energy to really get your hands around. So feel free to type in the chat which one of these four you feel like you have a good grasp on. What about you, Diana?
I was actually thinking about this one. I think for me, it's resilience. Making sure I have some money set aside to absorb a financial shock. And in thinking about this is I was talking to my sister and we went to school together. So we lived together and right, we split all our bills and things of that nature. But then after that, she moved East Coast and I moved Southwest. And then I realized, oh, I have to be able to figure this out. And so once I felt decent about my budget. I'm not going to say great, but one thing I really wanted to make sure is since everything now falls on me, I want to be able to have an emergency fund that I can access so I can try not to go into credit card debt where I don't need to. How about yourself?
Yes. Oh, that's really good. I feel like I have number three. I like the big picture planning a lot. And so I feel like it's easy for me to make financial goals and these plans to meet them. We recently got chickens, so we kind of had to save up for the coop and make sure it was all set up and, had everything for them. So I'd say that's probably where I lean towards diving into. That's the area of interest that I spend the most time, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the audience, we're seeing lots of ones and twos coming in for most of us, which is great. Great that people feel like they have control over their day-to-day finances, as well as the capacity to absorb a financial shock. I think those two definitely will lead to the next two after that. I do see someone mention number 4 is where they feel like they have a good grasp on financial freedom, which is incredible. I love that because I think we all want to feel good about where we're going with all of them, certainly, but at least having one or two of those that we feel really good about also is really important.
Fantastic. Yeah, we are seeing a lot of ones and twos as well. Love to see that.
Mhm.
The next question is along the same lines. Of these four, which one would you like to spend more time working on? For me personally, that's actually one. I have a budget, but do I look at it very frequently? No, I don't. So it would be, I think, really good for me to hone in on that a little bit more.
That's a good one. It's funny, right? Because we're in finance. You think that's the one we do well, right?
Right.
But it does. Let's be honest, budgeting sometimes does feel a little chore-like, so I get that. I'd say for me would be number 4, making sure, I'm doing what I need to now to be financially free later on in life. Because I would like that. I'm that person. I do love what I do, but if I could retire tomorrow and vacation every day, why wouldn't I do that?
Right.
So trying to make sure I have choices for my future is key to make that's the one I want to keep working on.
Oh, perfect. I love that. Yeah, I want to see you vacation lots too. That's good. Uh, in the
Here we
chat,
are doing.
we're getting
Mhm,
lots of
go
ones
ahead,
and
go ahead.
twos. Yes, ones and twos, ones and fours, 1 and 4. Looks like it's kind of a double-pronged approach. People are saying, not just one, I want two, I want to work on.
I
That's
like
great.
that. I like
Yeah,
that.
perfect. Well, we're going to give you guys great opportunities to look at each pillar and build a goal around that that's tied to the value, one of the values that we looked at earlier. So next, we're going to dive into pillar number 1. Great. Diana, would you like to take that? Would you like me to?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So pillar number 1, really awareness is the first step. You can't change what you can't see. So we really need to kind of look at your finances, look at your spending and your income in one place. So typically when I sit down with someone and this is the item that they want to work on, we'll pull up an Excel spreadsheet or even just write down on a little piece of paper what their income is. How much are you bringing in each month? And then we write down, what are your expenses? What's your housing, your car, your utilities, your phone, the 900 subscriptions that everybody has and nobody wants, right? And we write that all down. And while helping someone write that down, they always feel a little bit tense, right? They're like, oh, all this money, I'm stressed, I don't know. But as soon as we get to the end and we see, hey, actually, things are in the green, they take a huge sigh of relief. They're like, I just assumed it was all bad. Or those that, hey, it's actually in the red, but now we know how much in the red. And now we know what we need to adjust. And now we know this tension that you're feeling around your budget, how to solve it. And so that's what pillar 1 is all really about. It's hard to fix what you can't see. So the best thing you can do is get your income and your expenses aligned, get clarity on where your money goes. And it really helps with that financial stress, that kind of underlying hum of like, I don't know what's happening with my money. And it also helps you kind of keep track of those bills, make sure that they're getting paid on time and that, you're not missing something, what day it's due. You're kind of checking in, making sure that things, the money is going the directions it's supposed to go. So there are a couple of ways that you can build a budget. And there's also this kind of behavioral finance hack, and that is calling your budget a spending plan. It's just a little bit of a positive twist. And they found that it gives people a little bit more happiness when they approach the idea of creating it. Because instead of saying, how am I going to have to tighten my budget? You're saying, how can I plan to spend my money? That's a lot more enjoyable.
Yes.
So we have a spending plan worksheet we'll link to at the end of the session. And there's a bunch of other methods that you can use as well. Pen and paper, Excel template, there's a ton of budgeting apps. And a really good free resource that might be available to you is your current banker or credit card company's website or app. A lot of credit unions and banks and credit cards will have budgeting built in because all your transactions are running through that. And so take a look at that, see if there's anything like that already offered to you. And as you're building that budget, an important thing to consider, or building that spending plan, an important thing to consider is your fixed and variable expenses. So it can be really easy to kind of item out and see what your rent is, what your car payment is. It can be a little bit harder to see what your food bill is, what your gas bill is, what your non-food grocery, which is your toilet paper, paper towels, shampoo, all those other things. It can be hard to see what those variable expenses might be. So when it comes to the variable expenses, give yourself kind of a general number, and then look through the past month and see, try to add up. Oh, these were all the places I ate out, or these were all the times I went to the grocery store, and give yourself an idea of what that number might be. It doesn't need to be exact. We just need to be able to have some kind of idea about how much it might be. And then you also want to make sure you're including a line item to replenish your emergency fund or any debts that you're aiming to pay off. So make sure to consider all of those and the subscriptions. I tell you, that gets people every time. They're like, oh, I think I only have 2. And then as we start looking through their statement, it's like, oh, no, there's 4, there's 7, there's 10. Yeah. So definitely can get us for sure. Another good guideline for your spending plan is that you want to spend about 35% on housing. So after you've got all of your expenses listed out, you can do a little math and see how much you're spending in each area. About 25% should be towards living expenses like your food and food and clothing and things like that. About 15% towards transportation, 15% towards debt, and 10% towards savings. This isn't a end all be all, right? Like if you are spending 40% in housing, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a good guideline so you can kind of see where you might be averaging. If you're living in a van, you're not really going to have any housing expenses, so you can spend it more on living expenses. So make sure that you're not holding yourself to this standard too heavily, more just a guideline. Anything to add to that, Diana?
No, I really like that. We need to understand there's going to be flexibility in sort of like the guidelines you see there, because sometimes people need to know, like they want exact numbers, depending on how your brain works. If you're more analytical and this and that. So I think creating your own spending plan and understanding where you are right now, first, of course, like you said, gives you a good sense of where am I and where do I need to go, but then understanding how that can adjust in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months, or even in a year for yourself, or as you're going along, that you make those adjustments to try and stay around the guidelines there.
Yes, that's perfect. I love that. Yeah, your spending plan or your budget shouldn't be something that you are lording over, micromanaging every day. It's something maybe you look at every couple weeks just to see where you are on that trajectory. So here's some goals if this is the pillar you wanted to work on. I know Jamila said that they wanted to work on this one, and Lynn too. So these are some good examples of a goal you can make around it. So if your value is play and leisure, then your future-based goal might be able to spend money spontaneously and not feel guilty. So we want to keep it tied to that value, and we want to make that goal very specific. So the goal, the behavior-based application is take an hour this Friday to create and add a fun budget into your spending plan. Review it monthly on the 1st. This fun budget can be, $20, $50, $100, whatever fits in your budget. And that money is meant to be blown, to say, that it is money you can spend without worrying. So if that's your value, this is a goal and an action plan that you can use to make that happen. The other value example we have here is recognition. So along with that value, you could look at pillar 1 and say, I want to have other people notice my good work in managing my finances as I work on pillar 1. Your behavior-based application could be give my partner, child, friend, or even a pet a high five every time I pay a bill on time. I don't think my cat would like it, but make them do it anyway.
Right.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Diana.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I was really excited to talk about resilience. That's why I had you go first with pillar 1, because I think for many of us, when it comes to making sure we are getting through the tough times, can be a big goal to get to, especially when you're in the tough times. It just feels like, will I ever get to the other side? But it's one to know that you've done before and you can do again. We are constantly in situations where we have to be resilient. So thinking about that and making that sort of mindset that this is a situation that we're in now, but we can make an adjustment and keep going is so important. On the next slide, here, when we're talking about resilience and what it actually looks like, something happens, right? Unexpected expense, the major ones. If you drive your car every day, if something happens to your car, any part of your car, it can be scary, right? If you get sick, you have kids, they break something, you go to the hospital, that's another bill, water heater floods, that's another bill. The idea of resilience is, yes, we know it's going to happen. Doesn't mean it makes it any easier experiencing it at all, but we know it's going to happen. So how can we help ourselves, sort of alleviate or absorb that shock that comes with that? And one thing we want to keep in mind is how can we make a cushion for ourselves and create that calm? Because in times that things are rough, trying to then use yourself in a best way possible, aka, is my mind working right that I can be able to continue? Can I absorb that shock? I have to, let's say the radiator goes out in your car. I know it's going to cost me a few $100s. Do I have something set aside in my emergency fund so I can not go into credit card debt? Or some folks might put it on the credit card because they know the emergency, because they want the points, and then they pay it off right away. The idea is you want to be able to then pay that, take care of it, and then go back to keep saving, because you want to always have some sort of kind of cushion or emergency fund. And we'll talk more about that if you go to the next slide, where looking at how do I make sure my cushion is set so I can continue with my day-to-day, everyday normal. Now, for me, the example I mentioned about my sister and I moving apart, now everything relies on me. What got me was I have to drive to work, right? And I had to rely on my car. I live in Phoenix. Public transportation really isn't the best. So I have to rely on my car. So then what do I need to do? I need an emergency fund. And when you calculate your 3 to 6 months, we always hear that. Make sure you have 3 to 6 months of living expenses set aside. It looks at 3 months if you are in a dual income home and you're sharing expenses, 6 months if it's only you covering all the income and bringing in all the income and having all the expenses. When you figure out what that number is, that can feel very overwhelming because it is a large number. So then you want to start with a small goal and then keep going. What's the saying? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. This is honestly what that is. Start small and build from there. Second, you want to put it into an account that you can't quickly access or have your debit card that you can swipe to. This is intentional because you want it in reach, but then out of reach at the same time. You want it in a high yield savings account, maybe a money market that when time comes and I need to do something, I can quickly access it, but I'm not having easy access it that if I had a card that I would swipe it. The third part is my favorite part because life is busy and there are things we forget to do. Automating your savings is one of the best things you can do for yourself because it's going to keep happening for you. And you want to move it either from, you can do direct deposit to that account. You can go from your checkings to your savings and start with, even if it's $10 a month, 20, 50, $100 a month or per paycheck, that will then keep going. If you need to adjust the amounts, so then you don't stop. So let's say you were being ambitious and you wanted to start at 50, but then you go, okay, maybe I should have started at 25. Making that adjustment. And then if you are able to go up to 30 or adjust as you're going along, that's okay, because what we're getting to with the emergency fund at the end of the day is it's there, it's growing. I'm slowly putting money into it. So if I need it, I will have peace of mind that it's there. And then I'll be able to use those funds and then replenish them and keep going. And automating your savings sort of gives you that ability to do that and keep doing that. And it does the whole, if I can't see it, I can't spend it as well. which I think for many of us is a great way to then know, especially for us with the mental accounting. I would say that is one where it'd be really, really good for us to, we can't see it, we can't touch it. I want to remain calm. I want things to still go as planned in these trying times. And to sort of tie it to back to our goals, if we go to the next slide here, we can look at what that could look like for us. So safety, I think also ties back into calmness, peace of mind, right? I wanted to feel calm in case of anything happening. So here in the example, my car needs repairs. So what do I do to make sure I'm doing so is maybe take an hour on Friday to make sure my direct deposit is set up to go to the account, or set up the account that the money can start receiving, or even set up the automated, whatever which way it'll work for you, so that will align for yourself. If your value for that future based goal is more of a challenge, right? I want to see how I can quickly get to that 2,000 to go to then 3,000 and do that. Every time I go to spend money, what am I spending it for? Do I need what I want to get? Talking about subscriptions, I was looking at, my sister and I split Netflix. Um, and we were looking at, we're paying, I think it's about the $20 plan right now that doesn't have commercials. And I said, we grew up on commercials. We can deal with commercials, because that one was $10 cheaper. My sister was laughing that that was my rationale. And I said, we can use the extra money for something, whether it is a vacation. My friends and I have a goal to go to all the national parks. And I said, you know what? I'll put my $10 towards that, just so that I know it's going where I want it to go, and not where it's just, I can deal with some commercials and I'll still be able to watch what I want to watch on Netflix.
That's great. I love that example. I'm so glad you're touching on this, Dana, because I have the memory of a goldfish myself. And so I use that to my advantage in very few cases. But in this one, it helps because my direct deposit, I have, $50 that goes to a separate savings account, and I forget it's there, completely forget, until at which point, an emergency happens and I go, wait a minute. So I love your Netflix example. That's a great idea. Maybe I can handle some ads as well.
Right? It's been a long time since then, but I was just like, listen, we've done this before. We can do it again.
Right.
Was my rationale.
That's perfect. And don't you miss having all those jingles stuck in your head?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now those are starting again.
Perfect. We can get into pillar 3. So this one is really about being on track to meet your financial goals. So we really want to look at money as a tool for you to use to achieve your goals, whatever that may be. And so what it looks like when someone does have pillar number 3, set, that they're good with it. They know their goals. They feel confident that their future is taken care of. The progress is steady. So it might not be something, if you win the lottery overnight, that is obviously happens all at once. But we're looking at that slow, consistent change that typically happens. So somebody who does have pillar 3, set, they're going to see that progress steadily go by over time. The number will move in the right direction. Number 4 is that they're checking in periodically to see those goals. Do they still apply? Are those still as important to me as they once were? I used to have it on my bucket list to go skydiving. And then I had my first child and I thought watching you fall is all the adrenaline I need. So I said, never mind, I don't need any more adrenaline, no thanks. So that's no longer on my bucket list. So yeah, checking in on that and your progress, saying, I really do want to go to the Grand Canyon. Am I going to get there as soon as I would like? Is there any adjustment I can make? So it's important to come back and check in. So how we can do that, there's 4 main areas of financial goals. It's more than just retirement. It's about milestones that happen along everybody's journey. One of them is major purchases. So if you're buying a home, a new car, rental property, land, motorcycle, who knows, any kind of major purchase that you want to work towards. That's a goal we see very often. The other one is education, college or university for yourself or your children, trade school, could be many things. We also see debt payoff being a very important financial goal for many people. That debt can really weigh on you. And so we can work toward goals like a zero debt date, working towards that zero debt of credit card debt. We could have a goal of lowering our overall interest rates on our debt, a goal to decrease the monthly debt demands. Lots of things we can do around that. And then lastly, retirement, which we'll get more into in Pillar 4, but really those large financial goals of being able to stop working and live off of your investment savings for 30 plus years in retirement. And the retirement one really definitely hits close to home for me. My grandfather retired and ran out of money at age 86, had to go back to work. And he went back to work as a security guard at a junkyard, walking 6 miles a day until he was 97. And right, and he was very cute in that security guard outfit, walking around. But probably helped him live that long. But it would have been nice if he didn't have to. If he could have stayed retired if he wanted to. If he could have, chosen to not work when my grandmother got ill. So really, that's one that I love to see when people are able to have those options in retirement very comfortably. So let's look at some goals that can be tied to your financial goals. One, we're looking at the value of competence. So this would be a future-based goal of understand the best path toward a zero debt date. And the behavior-based application would be thinking, okay, after work on Tuesdays, stop by the library to spend an hour cataloging my debt and reading articles on debt payoff strategies. And the idea behind that kind of behavior-based application is your goals and the actions you want to take do best when you can stack them with things you're already doing. So in the last example, we had somebody checking in each night when they brushed their teeth. They're already brushing their teeth. It isn't something new that they have to start. They're just stacking onto something they're already doing. So in this example, they're already coming home from work on Tuesdays and driving by the library. Just add that stop towards this goal. And then the other goal we have is the value is philanthropy. So this could be a goal to create a scholarship fund for single parents. This is my goal that I actually put in there. When I went back to school, I was lucky enough to be on the receiving end of one of these scholarships, and it changed my life. And so I'd love to eventually be able to do the same for someone else. So this behavior-based application is use my Tuesday lunch break to readjust my spending plan to include $100 a month, save towards $5,000 for a scholarship fund. So again, we're making it very specific, but you should definitely tailor these to you. Tie it to a habit you already have, make it specific and detailed, so that way it's something you can clearly follow through on. All right, pillar 4.
That was a really sweet goal. I saw it and I was just like, oh, I love that. Making sure people are okay. Because we know the importance of education can really change your life. And so, and I think also that applies to this next one of freedom. When we're thinking about freedom, and you mentioned talking more about it in like our retirement, whenever we think about financial freedom, for most of us, we do think about it in the aspect of, I want to make sure I don't have to think about money, right? That I don't have to worry about that. And I want you to then also stack and add that I want to have the option of choice, right? Because sometimes we do look at financial freedom of being wealthy or being rich, but it is the ability to have the choice to do what you want, how you want it, when you want it, where you want it is what we really want you to get to. And that could be just in general in life, with your career, or just with your time. You know, one thing when we're thinking about in retiring, many of us always say we want to retire early. In doing so, what does your retirement then look like at that point? What will you be doing with your retirement years? Now, for some, it could be pivoting to start a business. Maybe there's something that you're really passionate about, that you, or an idea you always thought this would be a really great idea if I got this business off the ground, and something I can do and enjoy myself, that could maybe not be too stressful, but then really fulfills you. For some, it is the option of retirement and or retiring early. Generally right now we see most folks retiring in their mid to late 60s. Maybe for you it could be your early 60s or your late 50s because you want to travel, right? Let's go back to talking about travel, whether it's internationally or domestic. We all love a little bit of travel, right? That maybe that looks like making a big trip once a year or maybe smaller trips every quarter, whatever that looks like for you with your retirement, or even maybe relocating from where you live now to somewhere abroad or just a different state. Um, we want you to be able to have that choice to get there, moving from working full time to part time because you have the funds that you need, that you want to give yourself more time. It could be to take care of a loved one, like it says here. It could just be in general, you want to work less and maybe rest more, or have more time in your day to do something more fulfilling. Take a cooking class, taking a dance class throughout your day, whatever that looks like, enjoying your hobbies. If you don't have any hobbies, I'd say start planning what your hobbies could be and how you can get into those now and continue those later on. Or it is a complete career change. Maybe later on I'll go back to psychology, go back, get my degree, and switch from when I've worked in finance and I want to go back into psychology in my later years. And now this is something I've always wanted to do that I'm passionate about. And it can pay the bills here and there, but it doesn't have to because I have done what I need to make sure I'm financially sound to get there. Um, what would that look like for you, Jamie?
Oh, well, I was just thinking if I were to take a career change and money didn't matter, something totally off the wall sounds really fun, like a fire breathing juggler or something.
Cool.
So just, some really off the wall. But I think for me, it would be moving to part time because I do really enjoy working in the work that I do. But it
Yeah.
would be nice to have more time to, contribute to the community and the neighbors around me.
Yeah, yeah, building your
Yeah.
community is such a big, important one. And I really love that you said that. Being able to give back in any shape or form is very fulfilling for many of us. And so, really sitting down to think about what your financial freedom means to you. And if we go to the next slide, we can tie a goal towards it because we want to align what that looks like. And we would also pose a poll question of, what is your goal that you've created for yourself or you would like to create for yourself that will lead you to that when you're thinking about what does financial freedom mean to me? If it is independence, it could be retiring at 60. So what does that look like when it comes to the actions? Is you're using your lunch break on Thursdays to either meet with a financial advisor or review where you are. Now, this could be a once monthly check-in you give it yourself. Maybe 1 month is check your budget. Maybe it's another month, meet with a financial advisor. Next month from there, it could be, how's my emergency fund coming along? If for you it's more of a leadership access, is having a business, your own business, to replenish your current job. Or speaking of the being more into my community, maybe it's you taking a board of directors position for your local food bank and how you can help out there. But what does that look like? Use the first Monday of each month, set a time, 6 p.m., review where your cash flow and your business and your expenses are, your current expenses, to know, am I tracking on where I need to be? If it is more on the being more involved in your community, maybe joining Chamber of Commerce, to go to those meetings to see what in your area needs help and what skills do you have that you can help with those to help make sure things are coming along. We have from Lynn, she wants to take a trip to Hawaii with her family. Oh, can I join the family, please? Because that sounds wonderful. Listen, anytime vacation or travel comes up, I get really excited. um, I will say, speaking of family, my dad's working. My dad is a track and field coach, and he loves it. He ran track and field, and now he coaches, and he loves doing it. My mom, she's retired. She is the fun person. She's traveling, doing all these things, and my dad is very aware that she's doing these things, and he's happy to let her do it because she loves to do that and he loves to do what he's doing. So I'd say an important thing for those of you couples out there, talk about what that looks like for you both as well in the future, because that could be a little be like my parents, and you have very different goals in mind on how retirement might look like or when retirement. So my mom got the early retirement. My dad is just coaching away, having a great time. So what about you?
I love that. That's great. And I so appreciate people that are able to spend time doing that. I've got a bunch of coaches for my kids, and I'm just always so grateful.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, Hawaii, yes, Lynn, we're coming with whether
Yeah.
whether you knew it or not. You've got 2 additional attendees on your trip. Um, Jamila says having enough money in retirement that absorbs ongoing raising prices. Inflation is definitely a thing for sure. Very astute observation. Yeah, for me, I don't know. I feel like I need a little more time to think about it. It's a little too far away. But,
Yeah,
uh,
it is. It does feel like we have some many years to come before that gets to there. But start thinking about what you're curious about, hobbies that you enjoy. I've always wanted to have a green thumb because both my parents do, my sister, my brother. Like I don't know why it skipped me. So I'm trying to build my green thumb because I want to have plants in a garden. So that's something I'm slowly starting to get into to go, and I want to continue that into the future.
oh, that's a great goal. I love that.
Yeah. And with that, we'll go into the next slide where we can let's recap and share some resources.
Perfect. So, really, a recap of the key takeaways. Our money decisions are emotional. It's important to understand that our emotions are important data points for us to consider and value as we make our decisions. We can't make those decisions without emotions. So, we need to make sure we're using the emotions in a way that does support our long term happiness and healthiness. So, just keep in mind that the gap between what we know and what we do, the behavior gap, is very common and very human. I'm always glad to know I'm not the only human in the room, right? Um,
Yeah.
the other key takeaway is behavior change works best when it is tied to your values, when it matters to you. Don't just keep telling yourself, grit through it, try harder. That is, science shows that is not realistic and is not how we operate. So connect your goals to what matters most in order to really get lasting change. The next one is that small systems create big process. So looking at a bunch of the goals and behavior applications we talked through, those simple automatic behaviors help close the gap and reduce that financial stress. Anytime you can take a decision out of your everyday and it can automatically happen, it is much more likely to be successful. And then lastly, financial wellness is about balance. So the 4 pillars we talked about, control, resilience, progress, and freedom, they all work together to support that long-term well-being. And with inflation in this economy, we're all just doing our best out here. So remember to give yourself lots of grace. And we'll just keep going as we can. And then lastly, we've got some resources. Oh, well, actually, the next poll. I'd love to have you guys type in the chat what's one thing that you'd like to remember after today. If you're humans like us, it's, hard to remember what we talked about today, later today, much less tomorrow or a week from now. So take the time to reflect and help solidify in your memory something that you would like to take away from today as you go forward on your financial journey. What about you, Diana? Anything today that stuck out to you?
Yes. I would say going back to freedom, I need to definitely, if it's the one I need to work on, it really is. And I need to figure out some kind of what does that look like? Foundation of where I want to start doing it. There's wanting plants, but I got to need more than just plants that I want for my future. So uh, I'm starting to get that together because the time is going, and with the way inflation's working, that might become an expensive hobby very quickly.
It may be. Well, I've got a lot of weeds in my garden. I can grow
Start
things,
there.
just maybe not the things I'm supposed to be growing. Oh, that's great.
Listen, it's
Um,
happening though. We'll account for it.
Right. Rachel, we've got says, be more realistic about where I can start. I love that. Yeah. Don't set a goal that's out of reach that you feel, overwhelmed before you even start. Lisa says, small systems create big progress. Love
Ooh,
that.
I like
Oof,
that.
very good.
Mhm.
Dasha says, spending comes with emotions. LOL. I need to learn how to control my emotions. You can just ride the flow of the emotions and just
Right?
remember that it's a flow.
Yeah. We always want to be in flow state.
Yes, love that. We've also got the guidelines for percent of income for each type of expense. Fantastic. And to plan the action items, right? Yeah, taking that
I love
extra step can make a big difference. Alicia, we've got set reminders to focus on financial planning and being intentional with decisions. There's a lot of things pulling it over our attention all the time, isn't there? Um, love that. Love that. So many good things. Yeah, for me, it's, I was a little stumped at the question you asked me. I feel like my takeaway from today is to really think about, what does having financial freedom and having options mean for me? So I appreciate you asking me that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got some resources here as well. A budgeting worksheet. If you're considering student loans, we've also got, it's through the federal government. It's a fantastic loan simulator you can use to see what your loans are. If you want to create a spending plan or a budget, there's a lot of great apps out there. Some of them, we talked about your local bank. If you want to do a self-led retirement calculator, I'm so sorry, this cat wants to be involved in the meeting today. And lastly, meet with a financial professional. So we are here, we are available, we are happy to meet with you. Make sure to use that email address and you can set up a time to meet with one of us to have a free consultation. Another resource I really want to review is this monthly webinar series. So we are going to host a webinar every month. And in the summer, we have a specific program we're focusing on called Financial Foundations. So it's a 4-part series in the summer that's really meant to give you just a very solid foundation on financial basics. So feel free to invite friends, children, grandchildren, neighbors, whoever might benefit from that type of content. May is going to be strengthening your money habits. June is going to be investing basics. July is goal-based saving. So if number 3 was the pillar you wanted to work on, that'd be a great one to attend. And then August is credit and debt. So kind of talking through what credit scores mean, things like that. So those are the resources we have.
Yeah, this is really.
Oh, I think we lost Diana all of a sudden. But yeah. Oh, you're back?
Oh, good. I was like, the moment I start talking, it clicks out on me. No, this is really good, and all the messages coming in of what folks want to focus on is really, really important to make sure you reach your goals. And of course, please, we are here for you, and use us where you need us. Set up one-on-ones. We would be happy to talk to you to make sure you get you to your financial goals. And then lastly, just to repeat it, the employee phrase for those of you who get credit from your employer is bloom your budget. Make sure to take that survey and then put in the phrase to make sure you get your points. Because if that helps you too towards your financial goals, use all the avenues you can get.
I love that. Thank you, Diana. And I would love to read some more of these fantastic takeaways that people have with the last minute we've got. Be system-oriented with finances, reevaluate spending habits, and check those subscriptions. Yes. I found out I was paying for 2 instances of Disney Plus.
Oh.
There's no way we can watch that much Moana.
No. Even though we want to.
Right. Oh, that's so good. Well, we're at time. It has been such a pleasure chatting and presenting with you, Diana. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and insight. Such a pleasure to present with you. Yeah, and thank you everybody for your comments. It's been great to share the afternoon with you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.